Alright guys, we'll be speaking today about the security inside of a JWT refresh tokens. So let's say that we have a client and it's a web client and it uses refresh and access tokens in order to grab information from a service. So here is our service. The client needs to authenticate first into authentication service. So it sends a request for authentication and the server sends back a pair of access and refresh tokens. Both of those tokens have expiration time, and we use usually refresh tokens in order to continue the duration of the access tokens by again communicating with the authentication server, and the server returns us back a new pair of access and refresh tokens. For the standpoint of client security, we can choose to save the access token inside of an HTTP only cookie. And this is good because it will not allow the client to actually use this access token programmatically, but it will be transmitted to the server automatically with every request of the client. This feature of the HTTP only cookie makes it way more secure, because if we have an attacker and they try to read this access token, this will not be possible because the client-side code will not be able to read this cookie. And since in this method of authentication we're using refresh tokens which are sent to the client via normal payload and then saved in memory, they persist this way only on the client side, which makes them also secure. But an attacker can actually launch an attack known as a XSS attack, which will be able to reach the information stored inside of this refresh token and to transfer it back to the server, potentially reissuing an access token. This will also happen if both of the access and refresh tokens are being saved in HTTP only cookies. So basically, whenever we have an attack of type XSS and it's successful, the attacker can launch arbitrary JavaScript code making requests to the server and other services, and there is very little that we can do in order to stop these types of attacks except to prevent them from happening in the first place. Another option that we can also enforce is the same site equals to strict, and this will actually not allow an attacker from outside to be able to issue a request from outside domain, because this will limit the cookies to be sent. So those HTTP cookies can only be sent from the same domain that they are issued. Okay, so this is a good combination between those two parameters, but still we are vulnerable to XSS attack. And what we can do is actually to enforce a strict checking of the tokens in our authentication service. In practice, this means of setting up a table, let's say in a Redis database, which will have the following columns. Let's say we have a user ID here, and we can store all the refresh tokens that a certain user has. And why we are doing this? Just because Redis is in memory and it can access this data quite fluently and fast. And this is actually a list of the tokens which have, of course, expiry date, but they are issued through all the client session. This means that we're keeping a history of all the refresh tokens that have been issued. In this case, if an attacker is trying to use an XSS attack and reads the token, in this case the refresh token, from our memory and try to exploit it by using it in order to gain an access token, inside of our server we can check immediately which token is going to be reused. And let's say this is number 102. And in case if this one is going to be reused, we can issue token invalidation. So all those tokens will be revoked or discarded, and this will stop the attacker from gaining the access token. And this will be the first step to stop the attacker. And the second step is to redirect our client to a login page where the client will receive a combination of access and refresh token. So that's a very stable approach. Of course, it involves a little bit more logic, but this logic will be triggered only in case of an attack. So it's a preferred logic when we are trying to secure our refresh tokens. All right, guys, thank you for watching this video. If you have any questions, please write in the comments, and I hope the information helps you to secure your systems further. Thank you for watching.